Welcome, welcome back to Crafting a Meaningful Life. I know. I say this every single week. Do I have a guest for you? But that's because I absolutely love these women and men who come on my podcast and are willing to give time to lifting my life and your life, and in turn, of course, lifting theirs. We're all lifting together, and that's exactly what we're going to talk about today with my dear friend, Robyn Cohen. Welcome, Robyn.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Your whole life has been geared around lifting yourself and lifting other women in this state and beyond. I mean, you've done this internationally, and you've had so many experiences that have brought you to where you are today. And so what I would like us to do today is, first of all, let's stop and tell people a little bit who you are and your background, what brings you to this point. And then I have a topic that I want to delve into.
Okay.
I'm going to hold that until let's hear about you.
So, Robyn Cohen. I'm originally from Toronto, Canada, for those that do not know. So good old Canuck here.
And we love Canadians. Can I just say, we love Canadians.
And, my background's really interesting, just again, for other people to know. So, my late mother is Jamaican and my father is, Eastern European Jewish. And so I always joke because I like to say that I'm Drake's sister from another mother because we are both from Toronto and we are both Black Jews. So not a lot of people know that, but I think it's really interesting to know. And so, I've always said that I've lived like this double life professionally, if you will. I've always had one foot, in the space of, let's say, business development, operations in different types of industries and companies, as well as being in the women's advocacy space for over 15 years. So I've kind of straddled those two worlds. I've done this in Toronto, Montreal, New York. I'm trying to think, Los Angeles,
Sao Paulo.
Sao Paulo, Brazil, and now Salt Lake City. And, just to give maybe a little bit more background there. So it all started in, I believe it was, 2008. I connected with Girls in Tech, which at the time was out of San Francisco. And, I met the founder and I just loved the mission. And this was at a time where we were just moving into, the Web 2.0 world, right? Where, the iPhone now had been around for a year. LinkedIn was launched, Twitter, Facebook opened up to the public, right? So that there was like this really interesting shift happening in the tech space, but then what that meant for women, right? And the lack of, women engineers, women in computer science and all of that. And so I just loved the mission and wanted to get involved. And so I launched the Los Angeles chapter in December of 2008. So that was the beginning of my journey in the women's advocacy space that brought me to all these different cities. So wherever I've ever lived, I've either been involved with something or launched something to really rally around the community of women that, I was a part of, whether they were founders or executives, really just bringing everyone together. To this date, I feel privileged, and just honored to for people to actually, resonate with what I'm doing and to get involved, and just being able to, highlight, acknowledge, celebrate, support women over all these years. So it's really been something that's very precious and important to me. And, I've taken a step back in recent years because I'm almost assessing what would be my next thing, because I'm very focused on my family's business right now. But I know that I'm going to be doing probably something else really soon.
So as you think about this word, this two words, women advocacy, what does that mean to you? How would you summarize what is women's advocacy?
You know, I've always struggled with finding the right words to almost describe, right? Like what that means. You know, I've had an issue with the word empowerment because in my mind, we are already powerful. So, you know, so I don't feel that we need, you know, like we are empowered, right? So I've always had a problem with that word. And advocacy, you know, I think is a better term for it. I don't think it's perfect. I don't think it encompasses exactly, you know, what that means. But really how I have seen it and been involved in it is, you know, when you look around, obviously globally, but like, let's take that down to, you know, our country here and maybe what it means here.
Sure.
You know, we still struggle with very small numbers of women in leadership positions, and that is across the board. I'm talking every industry. You know, I think we have this incessant focus on tech, but it's everywhere, right? So it's the very small percentage of women that are in leadership positions and what that means for those companies and for those industries, right? Like we don't tend to look at it in that macro kind of level. And for me is, you know, the reason, let me give you an example, right? As I've been moving into perimenopause, and I'm sure we can get to that topic too.
Well, I'm long past the second one, so it's okay. But I remember it.
Oh, I'm sure. And I look at it as what does it mean for women's health and just the lack of information and resources and doctors and I mean, everything, right? As it pertains to women's health and the lack of knowledge and education around there, right? So my whole point is that the more women that we have in leadership positions as scientists, as doctors, as health professionals, right? And what that means for women's health, that is the dynamic I'm talking about, right? And people don't necessarily see it that way. They think like, oh, it's this kind of quota thing. I'm like, no, it's not a quota.
Oh, yeah.
It matters to have women in positions of power and influence so that we can have better education, better resources for everything, whatever that looks like. And so let's look at it in terms of the pay gap, right? We can kind of really target any one of those areas and say to ourselves, why does it matter? Well, that's why it matters, you know? And I think, you know, it's unfortunate that it's something that we still struggle with. And I feel that currently it's just become even more dramatic and more challenging. And I hope that we see, you know, a change happen there eventually. But I think it matters. And again, it's for all women. It's for women of color. It's for, you know, women, plus groups. It's really just looking at the whole, space of what women's advocacy looks like and why it matters. And that's why, it's been something so passionate for me. And now even more so, I mean, I'm 51, I'm going to be 52. So now I'm looking at it as, well, what does that mean even as we get older, right? I mean, obviously, going back to perimenopause, for example, in menopause, one of the latest statistics there is that our economy here loses over $1 billion in like lost productivity and whatnot because of women dropping out of the workplace in order to deal with perimenopause and menopause. I mean, that's a shocking amount of money. And so that's why, you know what I mean? So that's why it's like now I'm starting to look at it even differently from like a new lens because of my own experience with my health and what that means for my own productivity, right? For my own like energy and motivation, right? To like keep working and keep charging ahead. So it matters in so many different areas of society.
Okay. So I have actually written the solution to the Social Security problem in the United States.
Ooh.
I mean, I put pen to paper and I just made bullet points of how this could be done and on what kind of a timeline. And of course, one of the problems with Social Security is that it begins at 65. And when they put that in place, the average death date in the United States was 68. They had 3 years on Social Security.
Wow.
And now for women, the average death date is 82. So that means for over 15 years, we are sitting unproductive. And that, of course, you know, is one of my things that I'm committed to.
Yes.
And what if we could empower the uniqueness of women and what they bring to the table, but to get through those areas of life which are tough?
Oh, yeah.
Childbirth, perimenopause, what support is needed there? Menopause, what support is there? And then this is the piece that the American economy does not know, that women launch once menopause is over. And we're no longer worried about pregnancy. We're no longer worried about, you know, all sorts of different things. Our energy level can be more. We think it lessens. It doesn't. It can be like a skyrocket. And so what if we moved the retirement age? Has to be done slowly. First 68, then 69, 70. We moved the retirement years just 5 years to 70. And what if we said for women, do you know what? We're going to move yours to 75. Not that you have to. This is a choice thing.
Exactly.
But no one is put out to pasture.
Exactly.
15 years before their death date. It just does not make sense anymore. And just think how we could solve Social Security if people didn't start drawing until they were 70.
Oh, yeah. And you know what? Quite frankly, I mean, this could be like controversial, but you know, I think that retirement, even from a health standpoint, is not
absolutely
right. And what that means for like, and this goes for men and women, like what that means for our vitality and our energy. And I mean, look at Warren Buffett. What is he? 93, going to be 94? You know, I mean, he probably, just for the sheer fact that he's been still working, has been healthier for him. You know, his partner, Charlie Munger, passed away, 99, right? So, I think that the retirement thing to me, as it pertains to health and wellness is actually a massive issue. And so like Social Security is like that one aspect of it, but it's almost kind of like, what can we do to help people thrive, continue to thrive, right? If your choice is retirement, between retirement and when you move on from this earth, I think there's a lot of work that we could do there.
Well, you look at me, I retired from my career at 65.
Right.
And I was really ready to step away from that 18-hour-a-day lugging, hauling, standing on my feet. I really was. And I had children that were ready to step in, you know, in their mid-30s, and they were full of it and ready to just, you know, take the reins and we got this, Mom, and start riding, which is great. But I also knew that I did not want to retire from life.
Exactly.
So the answer was so obvious to me. Just start another career.
Yes.
Start another company. Isn't that what you do? Aren't you an entrepreneur? Can't you do that? And to step into that with full permission to myself.
Right.
Now here I am at 71, and I've just launched a whole new area of strength training for women in their 70s.
Which is so incredible.
And sometimes I do the negative self-talk, like, what the hell are you doing there? I mean, seriously. But then other times I hear feedback from women who say, thank you for believing in me. Thank you for seeing me.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that piece. Thank you for seeing me. Thank you for believing in me. I have so many experiences, Robyn, where I see women holding the hands of other women and lifting, sometimes from this direction, sometimes like arm in arm, sometimes reaching down, pulling up. Yeah. And when you and I see that, I mean, our hearts just expand.
Oh, yeah.
But we both struggle when we see the stay where you are.
Yeah.
Get out of my way. Yes. I've got to get to the top. I'm going to push you here. You belong here. And if I have to grab a hold of your back and shove you, I will do it because my survival matters to me.
Right.
How do you deal with that?
You know, I think one of the most fascinating experiences and observations that I've had over the years of being involved in women's advocacy. And again, I have done this in many markets, right? So markets, cities, cultures, all sorts of dynamics. And it's always been so interesting that we still struggle with a scarcity mindset among women. And it's ironic because on the surface, you know, when we look at different, let's say, initiatives or organizations that are for women, so made by women, you know, for women, it's really fascinating that behind the scenes, it can be very different. So publicly, what you're seeing, right, is women's advocacy and like the support and the rah, rah, rah.
Yeah, yeah.
But behind closed doors, that scarcity mindset can be very strong. And I've always believed that the pie is big enough. Always believed it. And I look at it in this way. This is what I always tell people. And I tell people this especially because I do a lot of work in the entrepreneurial, you know, startup space.
Right.
So I'm working with men and women and underrepresented groups and all of that. And what I tell them is, if McDonald's and Burger King can thrive, right, as
side by side,
okay, side by side, the same thing with Pepsi and Coca-Cola, you name any two prominent companies that are in the exact same space, they're pretty much selling something so similar and that they are both thriving and are super successful. That is the energy that I want. That is my motivation. So that's why I look at it. So I have never looked at it as, well, the pie is only, you know, so big. Not at all. Because truthfully, in the world of especially entrepreneurship and the startup space, I mean, you can't, like, it would be impossible for you to launch a business and grow it successfully if you have that mindset, right? And I feel like we should always look at the competition as the motivation and inspiration and a place to learn from. Like, what are they doing that maybe I can learn from? Like, what are they doing right that I can learn from? And I think that that is the mindset that we need among women. And I don't know what it's going to take for us to get there because it's still such a massive issue. But I know that I'm going to continue to work from that place. I'm going to continue to embrace that place because I have always believed that we live in this big, wide, wonderful world of opportunity. There is literally opportunity everywhere. I know that it is easier for some people to obtain those opportunities than others. And so, you know, what I mean by that is obviously a lot of like oops.
You're okay. Our platform makes it fabulous and it keeps recording even if you have a boo-boo.
Okay, good. But yes, what I was going to say is that obviously it takes certain groups that they have to kind of jump through more hoops, you know, in order to obtain that success or, you know, their goals, what that looks like. So it might be more challenging. It might take a little longer. But I do believe that opportunity is abundant.
I have several examples I want to give of this.
Okay, good.
So, for example, I've done my share of restaurant consulting. And I've had people say to me, well, I've looked at these locations. What do you think? And I might say, well, I like this one. And they'll say, well, I don't really want to go there because there's another restaurant right next to it. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, that's your place. Jump in. Look at McDonald's and Burger King.
Oh, yeah.
You will see them right next to each other. And different things make different decisions for people. Like, oh, that line's too long. I'm going to go here. Oh, that one had a special. I saw it advertised. I'm going to go there. Oh, you know, I really feel in the mood for those particular French fries. I'm going here. Hey, their drinks come free. I'm going to, but they make decisions on different levels than simply, no one sits in the street going, oh, let's see. I have no idea what to do. They just know where they're going to go.
Yeah.
But they're drawn to that area because there are two great places. And if I don't go to one, I'll go to the other.
Exactly.
The same thing applies to women as we stand together.
Yeah.
If you stand way off by yourself, the chances that people are coming by you is much less than if you stand with other women and people, you are seen more. You are heard more. You have more opportunities. Don't stand off by yourself. How often does a tree in a forest survive? A lot. Yeah. Out by itself in the desert? Not very often. Yeah. And I totally am on this page. And you mentioned you don't know what it's going to take. Well, being a little older, 20 years your senior, I've had a little bit of time past retirement to think on this.
Yeah.
It is a scarcity mindset versus abundance.
Yeah.
But I also believe, Robyn, it goes deeper.
Yes.
They are scarcity about themselves, not even about their financial status. They, unfortunately, those people who are clawing, pushing, shoving, struggle with their own self-worth.
It's an internal thing. Yes, it's an internal thing that is projected onto the world. 150%.
And when I see women who are in that position, I used to just be like, ugh, roll my eyes at them. Oh, brother. But now I look at them and like, gee, I don't know what happened in your past that created this feeling for you. But I want you to know that I see you and you are of worth.
Yeah.
And that internal mindset, I may not ever say it out loud, but my energy shifts, my ability to accept them where they are and invite them along as opposed to rolling my eyes and saying, I don't need you to stand next to me.
Yeah. But you know what? Sometimes I do believe so. It's one thing to acknowledge that and understand why someone functions from that place, right? And I think that that's another thing that we lack in this world. It's called self-awareness.
Yeah.
But I do also believe that it's, that sometimes a boundary is needed, because you can accept and understand, where that person is coming from. And you don't necessarily take it personally. But depending upon the dynamics there, sometimes you have to set a boundary. And
Absolutely.
boundaries are so healthy, and you don't have to necessarily set a boundary to the point where you may be cut off communication or, what that looks like. You just have to be much more discerning. You have to be discerning in terms of who you surround yourself with, what those dynamics look like, how often you gauge, how you engage, all of those different elements.
Yeah.
But boundaries are, I think, key in so many different ways. And there's physical boundaries, but I think the more powerful ones are the emotional boundaries.
Yeah. I always encourage women who ask me, how do you know? How do you know when I can trust a woman? How do I know when it's okay to saddle up? I said, I can't give you any hard and fast rule. Right. This hard and fast rule lies inside yourself.
Yeah.
How do you feel when you're with this person in the same space, in the same room? Do you sense there's competition? Is that yours or is that theirs?
Yeah.
Are you the one who's wanting to be better than because you feel less than? Or is that theirs?
Mm-hmm.
And once I really feel in, I know I can trust that heart intuition.
Yeah.
I don't want to react ever from my gut intuition, which is just full of fear. But my heart intuition can really sense this. And it's such a skill set I know that you have and that I have, and that I would encourage women to get a hold of, that ability to let their heart tell them.
Yeah.
We try and make up something else.
But sometimes, Mary, sometimes you might just have to go through a tough experience in order to, you know what I mean? Because sometimes, like, there are definitely moments where I feel, we know, right? Like with our gut, we can sense something and we're like, okay, this doesn't feel right. And you go with it. But sometimes you don't feel that right off the bat, and you may have to go through an experience, but you know what? I just feel that the universe wants you to go through that experience, because without that experience, how are you going to become smarter, savvier, more discerning, right? More, whatever that looks like without that experience. That's why experience matters. That's why failure matters, because how else are you going to learn unless you don't have those experiences? So I feel like sometimes your gut tells you, but sometimes you've got to go through that experience, because coming out on the other side of it will just make you that much better.
I think I shared with you at another point in time that I'd had this experience with a woman here in Utah who was running a nonprofit. Yes. And I'm a very trusting person. And of course, nonprofits are speaking my language. And I'm just like, oh, let me help with that. And I jumped on board and this and that. And here we are now 3 years later. And, the investigator from the, Attorney General's office is asking me questions like, how do you know if she had a license for a 501c3 nonprofit? Yeah. Like, as I chagrinedly said, well, because she told me. Right. He goes, and it was on her website. I said, and they said, did you ever look it up? Yeah. No, I didn't ever personally look it up. Yeah. And, just questions like that. And he said, did you ever ask, does she ever produce an accounting of where these funds have gone? Right. No, she told me. I mean, this sounds like I'm some 12-year-old business person and not this person who's way advanced in years. And
Right.
it just was like such a wake up call to me.
Yeah.
You know, like
Yeah.
we have tools at our hands that we can use. But I really felt like I went through that experience for me personally so
Yes.
that I would learn more discernment tools, research tools, so that I can make sure that I'm not leading anyone else with me down that path.
Yeah. Yeah.
You are now stepping into this perimenopausal stage, in your 50s. And I want to tell you, Robyn, that this is your launch pad.
Yes.
I think you know that already, but my launch pad happened in my 50s.
Oh, I love
And
that.
I became and grew into the person that I always knew I was,
Right.
but was too afraid to step into.
Yeah.
So do not be afraid.
Oh, I'm not.
What's ahead of you? Well, I know you're not. I'm just saying that really for our listeners, because I know you got this. Okay. So as you dream, and I tell people all the time just to dream. How did you know who you were supposed to be, Mary? I said, I just dreamed it. I just dreamed it. So I want you to tell us, what are you dreaming? Where is Robyn Cohen going? What's yet to be happening in her life, in your life, that is going to light us on fire?
Well, I have been involved in my family's business now for just over a year. And just a little bit of backstory there for the audience. My late father-in-law pioneered shopping mall advertising over 40 years ago. So when you walk into a shopping mall that has a directory of where the stores are located, on the other side is advertising. And so that's his invention. He built that up to a portfolio of over 450 malls, sold it to Clear Channel in 1999. They got back into the business, both him and my mother-in-law, in 2012. And now it's a boutique portfolio of properties in key markets across the country. And so, we unfortunately lost my father-in-law to cancer 4 years ago. And, I had just been watching from afar what's going on with the business. And I felt that, they are on the precipice of just a lot of exciting things, happening in the future. And I just felt that, it was a good time to get involved. So, after now being, involved for a year, we have launched a couple of new advertising networks in key markets. So we just entered the Los Angeles market, which is really exciting.
Oh, yes.
And there's just a lot of growth in that space. So I'm excited to be a part of this journey. Very entrepreneurial, but that's kind of my sweet spot. I like the challenge of entrepreneurship. I love it.
I do too.
And everyone has their thing. But being a part of growing a business, scaling a business, and looking at all the possibilities for it operationally, logistically, creatively, really feeds my soul. So I'm focused on that and working side by side, my husband, my brother-in-law, my mother-in-law. It's truly a family business, and we've got, a small team behind us. But that's my main focus right now. And along with that, I'm still dabbling in the entrepreneur space. Sometimes I am brought on as a consultant, to help founders. I have been a judge and a mentor at the Lassonde Institute at the University of Utah. Yeah. So I've been a judge and a mentor. Gosh, I think I'm going on 7 years now that I've been doing that. And so that's mostly with their annual Utah Entrepreneurship Challenge among all the Utah schools. So it's just really cool to see what these student entrepreneurs are doing and creating. It's really amazing. And so that also keeps me busy. And, you know, with the women's advocacy space, I've kind of taken a step back. I wanted to, first and foremost, focus on the family business. But I also wanted to just take a step back and look at, you know, what's happening in it globally, you know, nationally, locally, what's happening in it from that more entrepreneurial, like founder space, what's happening in it as it pertains to, you know, older women. There's a lot of like femtech, you know, entrepreneurs right now.
Absolutely.
A lot of cool products and services that are coming out for like older women and what that looks like. So I'm just kind of, observing, doing a lot of observation and talking to a small handful of women. So I'm not sure what that looks like in the next few months. I can explain something else that I recently got involved in. So because I'm in the media space, it's new to me still. I mean, I've learned a lot, you can imagine, over the course of this last year, but it's still new. So I connected with the head of brand partnerships at Hello Sunshine, which is Reese Witherspoon's company. And she started something called the Media Dinner Club. And she started it in 2002, and it has since taken off. So now she has like 28 chapters worldwide, like 800 members. I mean, it's just taken off. So
that's incredible.
I recently launched a chapter in the Salt Lake Park City area. So I'm excited about that, where I'm going to be bringing together women in the media space. So think media, advertising, PR, marketing, journalism, all that kind of stuff. I think it's an area and an industry that doesn't get a lot of focus because we focus so much on technology and entrepreneurship. So that's probably the most recent thing that I've been doing. It's more of a gathering of women on a monthly basis to do like intimate dinners. So it's more casual, but a great way to connect with women in that space. So we'll see what that looks like. So that's the newest thing that I'm working on.
Well, you know how we talked that you have a sense of the women who are working in the same emotional and mental and social and spiritual, all those things, space that you are, and that we get a sense when they're not. And that is what struck me about this new group, is that you're more in tune with that than you ever have been in your life. So how powerful this group is going to be as they step into this new space that you're creating, a space of safety, a space of creation, and what a beautiful time that's going to be. What I would like to ask you in closing, if you could give one piece of advice to all my listeners on crafting their meaningful life, what is the piece that you would leave with them?
Let's see. It's such a great question because obviously what is meaningful to me, right, is something different for someone else, right? What's meaningful to them. But I think that if I'm going to leave it in the space of really being focused on being a woman, that is very supportive of other women and what that looks like. I think that what the main thing in terms of crafting a meaningful life is really just embracing your authenticity. Like, no matter what that looks like. Because I think that we live in a world where, you know, think about cancel culture, you know, think about all that stuff. And we've just become so sensitive, like unaccepting. And it's odd, right? Because you would have thought that social media and everything that really makes up what it is was supposed to bring us to a place of being more collaborative, of really
seeing each other.
Yeah, bringing the collective together. And it has, I mean, dramatically gone the other way, to the detriment of what makes us human and authentic, and just creating like meaningful experiences, right, in this world. So I think that is what I would leave people with, is like, no matter what, embrace your authenticity, whatever that looks like for you. And to understand the power of the collective, especially as it pertains to women, and to understand the power of collaboration and what that really means, and to embrace an abundance mindset no matter what.
Wow, I love that. All right, listeners, take that to the bank. Go grab your Post-it note and write on that. It's going to go on your bathroom mirror. I oftentimes, Robyn, give them notes for their bathroom mirrors.
Yeah, absolutely.
And for this week, it's going to be, I choose to be my authentic self at all times. And when you are living in your authentic space, then it is so easy to invite others into this space and to be aware of where it's not. And Robyn and I have walked that journey, and we want to share that with you. So to all my listeners who are crafting your meaningful life, be authentic. Thank you for being here. Thank you, Robyn.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much.
Crafting a Meaningful Life.